This is a very brief Q&A. And thank you for everything that you all have said, and I think we need to take that time and for you to introduce yourself and let everybody else know who you are and what you stand for. We do have a mic. You don't have a mic. I'm borrowing your mic. No, you can, but I'm borrowing your mic, and you all have a mic over here that you can pass down the table. I promise I'll bring this to you. What I ask is for you all to take no more than 2 minutes per question. If you agree, then you agree. You're welcome to say you agree, but please don't say it again. But you know how that works. But we do have some questions from the audience, and I'd like to address that and make sure that that gets asked. And we also have a list of questions that were submitted to us. We did cross off some items on the ones that were submitted because they were already, for the most part, touched on by at least one other candidate, possibly more. So we did cross off some of those questions. So let's start with, do we need something hard or easy? Let's start with, where do you stand on allowing teachers and school district employees to use payroll deduction to pay dues to professional organizations such as ATPE, UEA, AFT, TSCA? Can we start with Beth?
Of course, I believe they should be able to do that.
Yes, I agree. And have done so.
Yeah, I think we all totally agree on this.
Is it me? Oh, yeah, absolutely. And more importantly than that, instead of just teacher unions, it needs to be unions across industries, because the bedrock of a strong middle class is strong unions. And it's no surprise that we have seen an erosion of the middle class as unions have been eroded. And we just had a Supreme Court decision, well, last year or earlier this year, thanks to Neil Gorsuch, that it's only going to exacerbate these tensions. So absolutely, we need to allow payroll taxes, because we need to enable strong union representation, because it's only through collective bargaining, thanks to unions, that we're able to push back against the corporate special interests that are ruining our democracy and are ruining our communities.
Yes, I do support that. And in addition, I would like to call out the irony of calling it the Paycheck Freedom Act when it's something that you are no longer able to do.
I do support that, and along with Andrew, I wish that teachers were able to be in a union in Texas.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'd like to point out Betty in the center, third row. Hi. Please keep me on task as far as the 2-minute limit. Next question. What do you intend to do about the shortfall for retired teachers in healthcare? And there's a second part I think is related. What do you feel about defined benefits? Let's start with the other table.
I can speak to what to do about the retirement system for teachers. I'm not sure about defined benefits, so I will let the more educated teachers in the panel answer that one. But the Economic Stabilization Fund exists to help us pay for things that can't be covered in the budget. You will hear people say that the Economic Stabilization Fund is a rainy day fund, or that it is, quote, only to be used in emergencies. That is not true. If you look at the Texas State Controller's website, it exists to pay for things that we cannot pay for with oil and gas revenues in times of decreasing oil and gas revenues. So I think that this is something that we should be shoring up. We made promises to our teachers, and we need to keep those promises.
Yes.
I would actually go a step further. So the question is about healthcare, right? Yes. So I am a huge proponent of a Medicare for all, or a universal healthcare system that will decouple the need to have a good job to access good healthcare. So if we are able to create a nationwide system, or even a statewide system, that everybody, teachers, administrators, and beyond, are able to access, then we don't necessarily need to worry about how healthcare costs for teachers specifically are going to be paid for. Beyond that, I think, as Steve just said, tapping the so-called rainy day fund is one option, and as I mentioned in my remarks, combining the employee retirement system and the Texas retirement system and creating a larger collective bargaining body would be a long way to solving the health insurance crisis that is currently affecting teachers and educators.
Yeah, so this is very similar to our public school finance problem that we have right now. We have the house that's on fire, which is, yes, we need to come up with the $5 billion that we need to fund for this next session, but we also need to totally restructure the way that we fund our healthcare, or not healthcare, our education in Texas. And so until we can get to that point where we have healthcare that's affordable for everyone, we need to follow through on our promise to make sure that we take care of our teachers. And I hesitate to say that I would support a specific set of words, because when we do that, we are tying ourselves to those words. And what we found is that later on, 1 or 2 cycles from now, they're just going to redefine those words and say, oh yeah, we're following through our promise because look, we've changed the definition. So how about we just say that we're going to take care of our retired teachers like we promised you?
They're all looking at me because they know what I'm going to say. I am a retired teacher under 65. My husband is a disabled retired teacher, cancer survivor, under 65. And with the cuts in the last legislative session, we personally took a huge financial hit. And those of you who are educators in here know that. That was the other anger point that pushed me to run for office. It was like, seriously? We have just dug ourselves out of medical debt after 6 years of cancer, and now you're slashing our health insurance? And education used to be something that was nonpartisan and no one even worried about it. It was like, of course you fund public education, of course you take care of teachers. Again, it comes down strictly to priorities, and we have to make it a priority again.
Yes, I would support, I also am a retired teacher now, under 65. So this is personal as well as moral issue. And I definitely would want to talk about merging the TRS with the ERS system. Why are teachers in a class below other retired Texas employees? Why are our benefits so much smaller? And why do we retire with such a substandard health system? This is something definitely we need to address. Because we're women.
Obviously, yes, we need to put more funding into TRS, and the healthcare premiums for employees, for our current teachers are astronomical. If you've got a family, you may be paying $1,500 a month for a health plan that's not particularly good for your family, which could, in some school districts, could be half your income, if not more. It's an absurd system, and the money is just not there. A state employee, just to make for a full-time state employee, your health insurance is 100% covered. You don't pay a penny out of pocket for your premium. For a full-time teacher, you may be paying $600-700 for a premium. You've got a contribution $225 coming from the state and district combined. So it's we need to make the investment there. And just real quick, I think one issue that we don't really talk about a lot, but in 2008, when Joe Strauss was elected, someone who's fairly favorable to public education. The House was 74-76 Democrat Republican. Now the numbers at this point have shifted dramatically. We've got Joe Strauss basically was forced out by Dan Patrick and others. And that's the biggest issue that we've got in this election. It's not talked about much, but is who the next Speaker of the House is. And so if we've seen cuts with a friendly Speaker, what's going to happen if we get a Speaker who's not? And yes, and that's what they want. I mean, that's what Dan Patrick and you know, the Freedom Caucus and Power Texas wants. And it's I don't think it's real likely, but it really depends on November, and I think you'll know that. But anyway, that's all I have.
Do we have time for one more question? One more question. Okay. And this may be a good segue to the second session with the Senate district candidates and our Lieutenant Governor and SBOE candidate. But one last question. What is your take on recapture and its relationship to property taxes? You kind of touched on it a little bit, and I know we will touch on it a little bit more. Is there anything you would like to share in addition to that?
Well, I think my caller is going to cover that really well. And we really must have more transparency because we don't know where that recapture goes. It goes back into the general funds and we don't see it in public education. And that goes back to the true intent of all this working with public education, and that is to destroy public education.
I want to echo what Nancy just said about transparency. We need sunshine laws in this state desperately. And it's made even worse because we are one of the very, very few legislatures that only meets every other year to make decisions for the 10th largest economy in the world. And I learned this as I was trying the last 4 years to figure out what was going on with public education policy, calling people, and there is a lot that happens in the off session in committee that we don't even hear about. And by the time they convene in January, most of this will already be decided. And so we will be in a position, if we get to Austin, to block, because the decisions have already been made, and that's just not right. Transparency.
And just, I don't think that Highland Park with $20,000, spending $20,000 a student, and Crowley ISD spending $9,500 a student, and there's others. I don't. In principle, I guess it may not be a particularly popular thing to say, but I think that there's a place for the Robin Hood. We need. The reality is that it takes generally more money and more resources to teach the kids that are the least resourced. They don't have the resources, and so we need a system that will make sure that the resources get to where they need to go, and that we're not spending twice as much to educate children in higher income neighborhoods than we are in lower income neighborhoods. So what that system looks like, and the reality is there are a lot of problems with recapture because, as we said, you know, the legislature received $2 billion in funds in recapture from a lot of it from Austin ISD and from other districts around the state. And then they just use that to reduce the amount of money that they send out to the rest of the schools. And then you know, and they still cut the budget $1.5 billion. So it's clearly not tenable, and it clearly needs to be reworked. In theory, though, I have to say that I think we need to do what we need to do to make the system equitable. So if that includes Robin Hood, then that's the way it is.
Okay, audience participation time. Please raise your hand if you think Frisco is a farm town. Okay, that's what recapture says that Frisco is a farm town. So that's all you have to know that it's broken, and we need to throw it out and start over.
Great segue, because I was already planning on talking about Frisco. Do you guys know when the last time the cost of education indexes were recalculated to determine things like which cities need more, which cities need less, which school districts need to have more adjustments? 1991 was the last time that we redid that calculation. There's not a lot of political will in the legislature right now to redo those calculations because there are going to be some winners and there are going to be some losers. We had the opportunity in the last legislative session to fix recapture, to make it more clear, to make it easy for anyone to understand, because I would wager right now that the majority of our state legislators don't know how recapture works at all, how those funding formulas work. HB 21 is the main reason that I'm in this race, because when that simplification of the formula and the addition of extra funds to public education in this state failed, that's when I put on my running shoes. So I believe that those formulas need to be redone, and as soon as possible.
This country was founded on the principle of equality of opportunity. It's taken us a while to make sure that every single person has an equal opportunity, but recapture is designed to allow that equality of opportunity. But as all my colleagues have said, it is broken, it does need to be fixed. The principle is sound, we just need a proper mechanism to make it work. And what I will close with is a quote from the great Ann Richards. I had the privilege of watching a play last night about Ann Richards. And one of her quotes was, "Stop whining, start participating." So if you want to make a change, identify the candidates that are pro-education, pro-educators, pro-equality of opportunity, and do everything you can to help and support them. Otherwise, we've had a preview last session about the attacks on public education. They are only going to get worse if you don't make a change in November. So, quick pop quiz. When does early voting start? Fantastic. When does it end?
November 2nd.
And when's election day?
November 6th.
Fantastic. So you have no excuse to forget. So that just shows you how close. We have less than 50 days. I think it's approaching 40 days left to go knock every single door, to make phone calls, to send postcards, to send text messages, because that is what it's going to take. While this is helpful, we need to get out into the community because too many people don't know there's an election coming up. No one knows who Beto O'Rourke is. Certainly no one knows any of us on here unless we go out and make those connections. So I implore you, spend 2 hours or 4 hours or preferably 40 hours supporting the candidate of your choice, your down ballot candidates, to get the message out there, because that is what it's going to take. It's hard work, grit and sweat and tears, and then we can rest on November 7th.